Think I can make Mark out in the dark.
Yeah.
There, I see him. Yep.
Hello, Mark.
All right. So we're on YouTube. Now folks are starting to come.
People have this down. Hi, Danesh, JV.
Hi, Dinesh.
Hey,
Jamie.
good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm sorry. I couldn't figure out how to unmute.
That's okay. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful scene, Jamie, in the back. I love that little road and the trees.
Oh, thank you. That's Bald Head Island.
Oh,
that's
nice.
very nice.
Yeah, yeah, Bald Head's nice.
I've only been there once, but it was lovely.
Yeah, it sure is. That's Federal Road. But yeah, it's very pretty.
Oh, hi, Rebecca.
Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, Hemant.
Oh, I know this one, Patricia.
Y'all are having a good night so
Patty.
far.
What's that, Rebecca?
Just hope that you guys are having a good night so far.
Yes.
Yeah,
Good.
it's a
Good, good,
beautiful
good.
day here.
Yeah,
It was really
it's
nice. It was
gorgeous,
a treat.
gorgeous today. Yes.
Makes it hard for me to come inside and do anything inside. I like being outside.
Yeah, I spent most of my day on my empty bicycle, soaking in empty sun rays.
Your empty bicycle. It took me a minute. Uh,
When I have a plank and I can't remember, I said I'm empty. I don't have it. Okay, well, let's see. It's 7 o'clock. You want to give it 30 more seconds?
sure. We'll give it till 7:01. We've got some folks on YouTube as well.
Yeah, there comes Don.
Oh, and Martin as well is coming.
Yeah.
Hi, Don.
Hello, Don. Martin.
Oh, there's Martin. Hi.
Hi, Martin.
Oh, yeah. One more.
And Lou just joined.
Yeah.
I can
Okay.
see when they join, but I can only see one, two, three, four, five people. That's it.
Oh, I wonder why.
It's because I have a presentation mode and then I have one screen, so everything goes on the side, and then after a certain time,
Oh, I see.
if I had two screens, I could probably see it.
Yeah, okay. That's true. All right. I think we can go ahead and get started.
All right. Well, first of all, good evening and thank you. This is the last and the fourth session of DB12, the Wisdom of Emptiness. And so I welcome you and I thank you for staying with me, keeping up with this. And I hope that you're at least able to look into it a little bit more and understand it a little bit better than we began with, So that was the goal. So with that, let's do our prostrations. All right. So let's just do a little concentration meditation on breath like we normally do, and then we'll set our motivation, okay? So just, again, taking care of your posture, a bit relaxed, but keeping your back straight, the legs on the floor if you're sitting on a chair or folded like a Vajra position. Arms are relaxed. Your hands, your right hand over your left hand, thumbs are touching. Your head is slightly tilted. Jaw and mouth are relaxed. Your tongue is touching on the top of your palate, and your eyes are slightly open. And you're gazing down at the tip of your nose or on the floor. Okay? And basically, it's to stabilize our scattered mind. When you come to a class or when you had a job all day long and other activities, our mind is busy. And so we want to bring our concentration and focus here. And it is always good before you do any practice to stabilize your mind. It's called, to bring a little serenity, a little calm abiding. And the best way to do it is focus on your breath, just a couple of times, maybe do 21 breaths. What you want to do is just focus on the breath and keep your mind on the breath. And if you find yourself kind of swaying away, you just gently bring it back and keep your mind on the breath, okay? Okay, so let's set our motivation. So we have finally reached the last session. And remember our discipline, that at the start of each session, we remind ourselves to establish this motivation that will obtain the most beneficial result of the efforts we exert here. So listen to this presentation in order to achieve supreme enlightenment, like that of Shakyamuni, so that you will be perfect cause for the happiness of all living beings, pervading space and time. This is a lifetime practice. So where you go from here? So we listen to many teachings on emptiness from qualified teachers, and we study authoritative texts on emptiness, and we should contemplate and meditate every single day. So again, take a moment to cultivate a motivation for being here that will transform every effort you make here into a cause for you and every other living being to experience the pacification of all misery and the perfection of every virtuous quality, including happiness. The ultimate objective is not beyond your ability to achieve. Buddhahood is defined as the elimination of suffering and the cultivation of every virtuous quality and happiness. Buddha demonstrated that this attainment is possible for anyone, and he taught his followers how to do it. The essence of those teachings is to cultivate enthusiastically disillusionment with cyclic life, altruism that does not exclude a single living being, and the view that perceives the non-inherent existence of everything. His teaching continues to present, and we are here today to listen to and understand the teaching on how to cultivate that view. We are therefore engaged in the very act that ultimately results in Buddhahood. And once you achieve Buddhahood, you can engage effortlessly and spontaneously in enlightening activity that results in everyone achieving Buddhahood. So in this way, you are creating the cause for your own and everyone else's ultimate benefit. However, none of this can happen if you're not motivated to make it happen. Okay, so bring your attention to the class. Thank you. So the plan for today, this is the last class. So, I was thinking how best to sum it up together. And rather than going class 1 and class 2 and class 3, we did that. I wanted to create like a story format so we can it flows better. So we can kind of build up on each topic till we finally get to the point where we say, okay, this is what it's all about. So I was thinking about that, how to best to present that. So that's what I've done. And then we'll take it a little further and a few comments on how to meditate on emptiness. Then I've created a few questions and I've also answered them actually. And these are very good, but we can open it up if somebody can answer it. It's always good to verbalize. A lot of people, they know the answers in their head, but they cannot bring it out. And sometimes it's good to get it out. It has some confirmation set in it, And then I'll present a quick resource list and we'll close the closing meditation and awareness of emptiness, and then we'll dedicate. And that is the plan for the day. Okay, oops. My slide just jumps. So I'm just going to leave this slide for about a moment. So just to give you an idea how we went through different things and how we can put it together today in some sort of a format that's easier to digest. Okay, we went through a lot of things in here, give you a little background, the two truths, the lineage teachers, and some definitions and self and emptiness examples and qualities of Buddhas and 4-point analysis and so forth. And we ended up with Heart Sutra last class. So today, I'm going to try and summarize the entire thing, okay? All of those little bullet points in a way that hopefully it's a little more easy to digest. So we can start with the very foundation, no matter what we follow, what we do, but we can at least start with the fact that every sentient being hopes to gain highest state of happiness and to be free from suffering. Every sentient being. We all want to be happy. Okay? But in Mahayana, because we are the universal vehicle, the thought is we shouldn't even just think about ourselves alone, but we also think of all sentient beings. Okay, so you want to be enlightened to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, and then also know that some of you could be advanced practitioners, but for those that have not started yet, they can start now and then gradually attain higher levels until final perfection is achieved. And Buddhahood can be attained in a single lifetime. So that's the fundamental. So just I'll go through these points, but this slide is going to stay there for a while, and I'm going to just go through these talking points, okay? So if you look at the bottom, there's a little 2 lines from Shantideva. It says, and it's from the Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life. Shantideva says, we all seek happiness, but turn our backs on it. We all wish to avoid misery, but race to collect its causes. And you first look at it, it kind of doesn't make sense. What do you mean? We understand we seek happiness, but we turn our back on it. How do we turn our back on it? And we wish to avoid misery, but we race to collect the causes. How does that all happen? Why do we do that? Well, he goes on to say, because of our mistaken mind, untamed mind, which is the ignorance that we have, we usually destroy its cause. So what is happening is because of ignorance, we don't know how things are, we keep on committing these actions, causes that result in suffering later on. So we seek happiness, but we turn our backs on it. We wish to avoid misery, but we race to collect its causes because we continue to do those actions of body, speech, and mind. So then the goal is what? To develop an unmistaken mind. So when I'm taking you through this, think of these things. So we're seeking happiness. We have an unmistaken mind. Our goal is, we have a mistaken mind and we need to create an unmistaken mind. So that's where we are. So to develop an unmistaken mind, the intelligence that perceives true nature of phenomena, okay, that's what we want to do. So we start with developing a foundation. Okay, therefore we must recognize through experience the nature of wrong states of mind, as well as the virtuous states of mind. And if you remember from karma class or not, and I'm not going to try to make you remember anything, but they've very listed like 10 or 11 non-virtuous states of body, speech, and mind: killing and stealing and sexual misconduct, lying, divisive speech, and idle speech, craving, ill will, wrong views, all of those non-virtuous states of mind. And we can apply antidotes. Okay, so developing an unmistaken mind, virtuous mind, and integrating these positive qualities develops the foundation to understand emptiness. Because this is what keeps us going, cause and effect, and keeps us back and back in the same boat every time. And this is knowingly we do this. It's an actively, knowingly creating karma every single day. Okay. So then we went to the Four Noble Truths, if you remember. And the reason we went to the Four Noble Truths, here the classes on emptiness was so important to have this foundation. The Four Noble Truths, they give you the causes and effects, how karma works and how we can release ourselves from this cycle. And what it's saying is, the first one is the truth of suffering, which is the undesirable effect of a cause, which is the causes of suffering, which is the ignorance. The causes of suffering is ignorance, like attachment, ignorance, attachment, aversion. Those are the reasons we suffer. So it's the cause, the effect is suffering. Then if you go to the next two truths, those are causes and effect of a desirable result. So the cause is that there is a path of cessation, and the effect is cessation of suffering. Right? So that's what we are trying to do. We don't want to be cycling through this cycle of aging and birth, aging and death, and the samsara, basically. So then that leads us to when Buddha was under the Bodhi tree, when he got enlightened, he saw why people struggle through life, why this cyclic existence, why we keep on coming back and rotating through this cycle of birth and death all the time and suffer. And he realized the 12 links. Okay, and I won't dwell too much into it, but just a quick remembrance, for just noting it, that it's because we have this I, this exaggerated view of I, which causes ignorance, which causes this mean mind, I like it, I don't like it, good, bad, ugly, all of these things. Okay. And so what happens is, when he saw these 12 links, he says, this is ignorance. People have ignorance, which then goes on to create different actions, right? It creates this karma, karmic actions we create, and we engage our body, speech, and mind on a daily basis to create karmic actions because of ignorance. When you have attachment, when you have anger, when you have ignorance, what happens? We start with an I, me, my, I like it, I don't like it. I don't want that, I want that because I like it. We start this whole just myriad of thoughts that start from that. So that's compositional action. So from ignorance, we develop these compositional actions. Okay, and then what happens? The actions, it gets infused in our consciousness. So the third one is the consciousness. They get infused, they get imprints. That's where we function. Okay, so the third link is consciousness. And from there, at the birth, you have a name and body. So mind, body, and form, they call it. Name and body sometimes, or name and form. So you have this, you bring in some of those imprints, you kind of already have these fundamental imprints in you. And then as you're growing up, they start to expand a little bit in your mind. And then when you start to get the six senses, which is the next link, we have all this formation of senses. They call five senses plus mind, six senses. Then you start developing contact. Once you have senses, you have contact, and then you start to think object of pleasant objects, unpleasant objects, neutral objects. The I gets entangled in that. I like it and I don't like it, right? Then the objects of desire and hatred and ignorance begin. Then you develop this feeling of happiness, unhappiness, and indifference. Okay? You just think through that, how all these links work. And then once you know happiness and the unhappiness and indifference, we have a craving for the desire, for the real satisfaction, which nourishes, again, the karmic potentials in the consciousness. We have a little craving. I like this, so I'm going to hook onto that. That's all I do. That's what I like, And then the intensity of that craving increases, and you have grasping. Now you're grasping on it. When you grasp on it, it is again infused in your system even more stronger. And that's what you are then. You become that way because that's where your mind functions. And before that, that's what goes with you. Those seeds, things you grasp at, go with you. And then there's a next birth. And then you start again the cycle. And he saw that. He saw that this is why we keep on cycling through samsara. So if you remove the ignorance, then none of the links have to be there. And so that's where we are going to now next. So in Buddhism, ignorance, attachments, and aversion are considered the three poisons. All right. And even the Buddhist yogis, practitioners realize that there is no enemy outside. The enemy is inside. So, so think about that for a second. And when you remove these three poisons, the inner enemy is vanquished. Pure consciousness remains. There is no longer any mistake in one's perception. The delusions are gone. And then the karma doesn't have the power on you. The forces of karma are not engaged. Then the actions of body, speech, and mind together with the seeds are brought under control. So that's how you develop unmistaken mind and you vanquish these forces of karma. Okay, so at one level, if you were to look at this topic of emptiness, okay, before we get to the main point of emptiness, you need to know that we function in samsara right now. So cause and effect is going on. Causes and effect, causes and effect. We say something, we do something, we have grasping, we crave, we grasp. That's what our mind churns with. That's what we believe, that's what we get, that's who we become. And it catapults, has a propensity to go into next rebirth, whatever that is. And that's what we carry. Okay, so that's karma. And then what happens, so you need to develop the right view of emptiness, right? With the wisdom of emptiness, the causes of these actions of ignorance, attachment, and hatred are destroyed. Thus, these actions that arise from them cease. So we're creating, the mistaken mind is there. We create the non-virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind quite often. Also virtuous actions. Don't only focus on non-virtuous actions, but this is, again, we're looking at emptiness, getting away from ignorance. So we have to talk about in those words. And we all have that. We have anger and we have aversion and we have attachment. So hopefully it's generalized. Okay. And so, but in middle way, you need to also have this. I'm going to say this twice and with an example. When we say things are empty, our mind is still not polished enough to see that there is something. There is always things happening. There is always cause and effect. So there are things. We simply just don't know how. It's not what exists, it's how they exist. So you got to have this bird's eye view and say, okay, karma is functioning here with conventionalities, which we'll talk about. And then there's this deeper way of looking at things. Ultimately, everything is not static or by itself. It's not existing on its own. So you got to keep that thing going in your mind and start to analyze it till it kind of works together for your mind. And you can see very clearly that yes, things are there. We function, we create love, we can create compassion, but we still feel solid. We still feel that I is still there in me. That's me. This is I. And so we need to look at that very carefully. Okay? So that doesn't mean no person exists, okay? It's simply how we typically see things is what we are looking at. And you find out that nothing is inherent about anything we see. Now you can look at any examples in your mind. So this is why when we realize the true nature of things, we realize the shunyata, the emptiness, that directly opposes the ignorance of not knowing. And you can apply antidotes to some non-virtuous things, and you will start to become a better person. But until you remove them all, you cannot really see the true nature of shunyata. Okay? So you need to understand that. So you can see at one level, we are functioning in karma, cause and effect. We see things solid. We continue to create actions of body, speech, and mind. And then we got to fill in that ultimately things don't exist from their own side. Everything, what do we mean by that? When there are other causes and conditions, other factors making things happen, they do happen, right? But they're not by themselves just popped up. It requires other factors. You look at your body, you look at your mind, you look at a car, your table, a tree, anything, look at the causes and conditions at work. You know, easy to see a tree or a table, which is external, very difficult to see ourselves. We see ourselves very real. Okay, it's easy to say, oh, a tree, it came from a fruit came from a seed, and it had the right causes and conditions of sunlight and the water and the right temperature, and it can go back and back and back and back, and never-ending story. It's easy to see that, but when it comes to us, I'm like, I'm here. This is me. I'm Hemant. Okay, it's very hard to see that we are also dependent arising. So we'll talk about that. So let's talk about a little bit about, so literally emptiness means the absence or lack of independent or true existence. Ultimately, every phenomenon is empty of truly existing from their own side independently. That's what it's empty of. That's what emptiness is. Not that things are not there. So that's what they call middle way. And it's very hard for the mind to twist around this sometimes because we are so used to seeing things the way they are. So when we talk about dependent arising, three things need to come to your mind. Things arise and originate from causes and conditions, which is pretty simple. Things that depend on their parts. So for right now, we can see, we take an example of a car. Okay. We know that there is a car. I have one car right now parked outside. I can drive it. I can go to places. But then you look at it, we don't see that the car is made up of many parts. Right? The steering wheel is not the car and just the tire is not car. But when we put it together, we give it a name and a label. We call it a car. Not only that, we call it a Hyundai or a Toyota or a Mercedes. If you change the label, then it becomes maybe a Range Rover. I don't know. Kia, But you can see that once you put that label on it, we see that car. We normally don't see it as dependent arising. So it's good to inferentially think how things happen. That's first step towards looking at the way things are. That's the first initial inferential way of looking at it. And then words and thoughts. If you take the labels out, so even if I say it's a Hyundai, that's the label, I take the Hyundai away. So now it's a car, that's the label. I take the car away. Oh, this is a steering wheel and a tire. Those are labels. We need these conventionalities for communication. So nobody's denying. That's why it's called the concealer truth. It is true because we perceive it and we have agreed on these conventionalities. But if you take the labels and thought out, what is it? Simply parts and labels and causes and conditions. For a person who's never seen a car in their lives, if you were to prop them here and say, go get my Hyundai from the garage, he's not going to know what you're talking about. So that's how we perceive. Because of thoughts, words, labels is what makes us see things, and we see it like that. When you really kind of deeply look at things and you see how other factors are playing for your being, how even those things inside you, your aggregates, form, feeling, perception or discrimination, mental thoughts, and your consciousness, your mind is changing at every moment. So it comes into like a momentariness of it, and it's changing. Things exist, things work. We function, but we apply this rigidity to it. And that's what you must analyze on your own. There's no words I can say that's going to go immediately into your mind and say, oh, I get it. But try to think about those things, okay? And that's why there are the two truths. One is conventional truth, what is true to the valid conventional consciousness. It is called concealer truth or obscuring truth, because although true on one level, because I can see Danesh and I can see Linda, it obscures the ultimate nature, which we are dependent arising and empty of inherent existence. If you can get that, you'll get very close to feeling that a little bit, okay? And then after that, we looked at Heart Sutra. Why? Because Heart Sutra is the profound teaching of Buddha, right? And that's where we learn about emptiness. And this is where how he taught. And we went through quite a bit of details. And not only that, once you even inferentially understand emptiness, because you need even words and the thoughts to even look at something to see it's empty. So it's inferential. The bodhisattvas, when they reach at a certain level, they can directly see emptiness. Okay, that's where we want to go. So what happens in the Heart Sutra, it walks you through. Sorry, I don't have the Heart Sutra slide here, but I thought I had. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. We went through path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, and path of no more learning. So in path of accumulation, you're creating merits, you're loosening up your non-virtuous karma, you're starting to understand inferentially what emptiness is. So you have this path of accumulation. Then in path of preparation, you get into deep meditation, because you really want to understand and you're really single pointed meditation, you're realizing you have an insight how we are. What is emptiness? You start to realize emptiness. You reach, that's called the path of preparation. And then that takes you to the path of seeing, where you can directly see emptiness. And that they are called Aryas, or noble beings. They still have some latent tendencies left, but they can at least get a lot of this out of their mind, and they're clear-minded in that way. And then we go to path of meditation. There are different steps in there. You even completely shed even the slightest habitual tendencies. Then ultimately you reach no more learning, which is becoming a Buddha, an omniscient mind, an omnipresent mind. Okay, and we saw in Heart Sutra how, because of this profound inspiration from Buddha, Avalokiteshvara and Sariputra has these conversations, and then they go through all the way, and Buddha then confirms and supports the fact that is correct. This is the way. And then the mantra, which is unsurpassed, is Tayatha Gate Gate Paragate Parsamagate Bodhisoha. Gate means gone, gone, gone beyond, gone way beyond Bodhisoha, enlightened being. Okay, And at a higher level, you can see the first gate is the path of accumulation. The second gate is a path of preparation. Paragate, gone way beyond, gone beyond, is path of seeing. Gone way beyond is path of meditation. And then bodhisoha, no more learning, becoming Buddha. So you can see how deep this topic is. And one must take some time once you start meditating and contemplating. Try to combine your meditation and start looking at Heart Sutra sometimes. It's very powerful. Okay. So that puts me into how to meditate. I gotta keep my time. Okay, very good. 7:30. Perfect timing so far. Okay, so just at least you should right now have a clear understanding that we are in samsara. We are all seeking happiness, but we keep on struggling and keep cycling back because of mistaken mind. There's some ignorance in there. We don't know how things truly are. Okay, so that's why we cycle. Then we, on top of that, we have conventionalities. So we see things a certain way because we label them. Okay, so once you get that, then you say, okay, but there's a real ultimate way of things that they exist, that things are dependent arising, therefore they're empty of inherent nature. And that's something your mind has to look at it. And when you see that, even slightest thought of that loosens up so many things. Okay? And then you progress more and more and more till you can see emptiness directly. And that's how you go about doing things. And it is very powerful because it will stop the forces of karma. Once you reach a point, then you are not engaging karma. And if karma is not engaged, guess what? No birth, no death, you are free. You're not going to attach so strongly with this self that we hold on to so tightly. Fear is gone. Okay, so that's enough for that summary. I hope it was a good little story. So let's look at some logic on how to meditate. So in the beginning, you start with some logical understanding because we still don't get it. Like we can kind of think through this, but then it's still this strong I is still existing in me. And I still feel like, I get it, I can see it, but it is still not really entering my head properly yet. So you kind of feel, so that's why they have this logic. And it's easy to understand that if you go systematic way, then maybe you can confirm yourself a little bit more strongly that yes, truly that I is not there. Okay. So, but we still feel like a little mirage that is something is in there, and we still feel that feeling in there. So one has to discover that we are what is empty of. Okay, so you do a 4-point analysis, and the 4-point analysis basically has 4 points. You first analyze how we are grasping at this I. We are not talking about the mere conventional I. This is where, again, a little twisting comes in the head, but I'll clarify it. You're looking at that exaggerated I, the I when somebody insults you, somebody calls you a name, or somebody praises you tremendously. Something happens in that heart. Something pops out. That I. Otherwise, the mere I that we use for communication, I am talking, you are listening, I am eating, I am sleeping. That's fine. We conventionally communicate that way, but have a deeper understanding. We're talking about an inherent, that what binds very close to ourself. That's the I we are looking at. Okay, we are trying to find it. Where does this exist? Okay, so that's the nature of this the 4-point analysis. So what they do is they analyze you first. I find the I that you're trying to refute. Does it exist or does not exist? We negate it. Okay, and then it's misconceived by ignorance because we feel it. And then what we think is, oh, it must be part of the aggregates or it must be independent. Aggregates meaning form, feeling, discrimination or perception, the compositional factors like all mental thoughts and consciousness. Maybe it's part of that. And then you start to think about it and you meditate on it. Well, my mind changes all the time. thoughts are just many. Which one is that I? Then you start to think about all the different feelings, pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, neutral feelings. Which one of is that as I? You go through this logic and start to see, and then you realize it's simply an imputed, and it's been going on for a long time. We have these attachments and this ignorance, right? Because of ignorance, we have strong attachments. And so what happens is we reinforce that I. We reinforce that every life more and more. And so it's solid. It doesn't go very easily. It's a hard work, but it can loosen up and then eventually go. You just have to put your mind to it. Once you realize the true nature, you will see it. And I will even go further to say, in Lama Zopa Rinpoche, in your readings, How to Realize Emptiness is given a great example. And I took it from there. And he says it's like this. When a child is first time riding a horse, there's a fear. When you first realize how you really are, if you are a novice at it or just thinking about it, there may be a little fear in you. On the other hand, if the rider is an experienced rider, he's very happy if the horse runs even faster. Right? He is happy. He's looking forward to that challenge, right? It's like that. We have a fear of losing something that we've held so tightly. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, if that feeling comes, continue to analyze. It's okay. Just continue to analyze. And then he goes on to say that in part of your meditation, when you're sitting down, standing up, distracted, think about it. Take a pause. Who is distracted? Who is sitting down? You can say yourself, my aggregates are sitting down. Use this analogy in a certain way and start to see how it comes closer and closer to you, recognizing that true I that we hold on to so tight and realize that it's not there. Okay, it's our ignorance driving it, and then imputation on that of this body and mind. We put this I and then we hold on to it tightly, but it's simply a label. So that I cannot pour it into your hand. It takes time to meditate. So first, there's two types of meditation you can do. And they always say, first, whenever you do meditation, start with calm abiding, samatha. And there's a beautiful writing on it. There's 9 steps. Because we have a scattered mind. Either it's a thinking mind or excited mind. We need to bring it together so it's stabilized. Then you form serenity. And then you put a placement mind. Then you can analyze something. So you have analytical meditation, like 4-point analysis or whatever your object is that you're meditating on. And then a placement, one-pointed meditation. That bringing that one-pointed meditation is very difficult in the beginning because we are not practiced. We haven't been practicing meditation to that level. So it takes a little time. But even if you do small meditations on this, you will see inferentially, you will start to sense some of these things. You will start to see it. Okay, so that's one of the ways to really, really meditate and look at this 4-point analysis. So first you want to do samatha, which is called calm abiding, serenity, tranquility. Take the scatter away. And when you get to that, it's easy to then do a placement meditation on the object. And one focus, 1-point focus. Okay, so there's 2 ways to do it, right? Calm abiding, and then placement meditation. And then what you can do, you calm abide and do analytical meditation, and then focus on single pointedness on that topic. That's the way to do it. Any question on that so far? And then you have to apply this reasoning again and again and again. Am I doing this because my aggregates are doing it? Have I realized this? Who's working? Who am I? And what happens is more you do it, thinner and thinner and thinner that I will become. Okay, at one point it will become invisible. So any questions on that? So this, in concluding, how to meditate. So definitely look at the logic, look at the I, then create some calm abiding first, then do analytical meditation, and then single pointed meditation on any object that you want to look at. Okay. So any questions so far?
There is a question from a student on Zoom. Can you go through what calm abiding meditation is again, please?
Okay, calm abiding is, for example, to start at the fundamental level, just concentrating on your breath, very neutral. And what happens is you develop this concentration on one thing, very neutral thing, right? And we do it in the beginning when we set the motivation. What happens is your mind is thinking, I have to go to work tomorrow. I have to get my clothes ready. I need to buy something. I'm still hungry. All these things are going on in your head. For a moment, you just bring it down to your breath. And as you focus on something neutral like breath, your mind starts to come down. The chatter starts to go down. You can focus on anything, a holy object or even a candlelight, whatever you want, your object. But you just need to bring the chatter down. And then you find yourself sometimes either you're falling asleep or the mind is very active. And there are antidotes to that. You work through it till you can 100% calmly create this calmness and serenity in your mind, tranquil abiding, they call it. Once you have that state of mind, now it's easy to analyze something. Then you can do the analytical medicine because you're focused. You can think of the topic without going 20 different directions. So then you do analytical medicine, and then you can do one pointed and placement meditation on one object because your mind is then focused like a sharp weapon. So that's what samatha is. And there's, if you look up the 9 levels of meditation, nine meditation levels, or samatha, you will find some reading on it. Even Pabanka Rinpoche, Geshe-la has taught us that before, how to start slowly and get to the point where you can get samadhi or one-pointed meditation, complete equipoise. You can develop that. Okay.
Another question. Can you just in a nutshell explain mere I and truly existing I?
Okay, sure. So things do come into play. Things are happening all the time. Causes and conditions create things. So nobody's denying what we are saying is how they exist. So there's 2 things. It's mere I, labeled I, nominal I, or relative I. Now, how do I explain that? We do things, we perceive things, so things are there. We see it. However, when you truly look at how they exist, you find out that they don't exist inherently. That's something you have to work through and really, really do a little penetrative mind search that things happen, things are there, things function. There's a little self, mere self there. However, we see it more solid. We see the I more inherent. We see more things like it's existing on its own. We don't see dependent arising. We don't see how other factors are creating that form. So it's very hard to explain in words for me, but you can see that there is a relative I that you can say, fine, I have compassion. I will become a kind person. You function and you develop this positive quality. So there is this function and a mere I that functions in that way. However, when we look at right now, you feel if somebody, whoever has a question, if somebody were to insult you or curse you or give you a lot of praise, that I hold on to what I believe in. And this is me. That we need to really look at because that's what holds us in this ignorance, right? This is what causes karma. That's the I we are attached to. So the attachment, that's the I that creates anger. That's the I that creates aversion because it's me and mine, what I like. what's pleasant to me. That's what starts the cycle. So that's the cyclic existence that we get into. And I would love to discuss with that person if you have time later on. We can go into some examples and talk a little more detail, but at least understand that there is a relative self that continues. Causes and effects go on, right? Things are always moving along. Your thoughts going from one thought to another thought to another, it's going to go on. So everything is cause and effect. But the karma, because of ignorance, it has the force on us that binds us down to the samsara. And so think of the truly existing I from its own side. You didn't just pop up. You're not static. You're not it. Many factors make your form. Many thoughts make your consciousness. It's one thing after another, always moving. One cause, one effect. Cause, effect, goes on all the time. And we continue to create them as we do it every now and every moment. And the only way to get out of it is to start to understand the nature of things, which is they're not inherent existence. So then you don't get angry. You don't over exaggerate things. You start to calm down and you see how things are. And that's called mere. And I don't know how else to explain mere. Look it up in dictionary. There is a way they explain it. It's like it really doesn't have quantification in a way. Okay, sorry, I can't go further than that. So next thing I want to really, apply reasoning, develop your experience of emptiness, okay? This is a continuous lifetime practice. If you're just going to learn this intellectually and you can do a couple of good things, yes, you will remove some delusions, but you're not going to realize emptiness. If you really, truly, the three aspects of the path, and one must constantly keep that. You must have eagerness to get rid of this samsaric life. You must have at least some sort of a fervor to do that. Second thing is realize emptiness and then join it with bodhicitta to benefit all. We are all connected. Everything is connected. Causes and conditions. Everything is connected. Okay? So those are the three things you must always keep in mind. It is a lifetime practice, and I would suggest that as you do these things, these questions will come up. What is a mere I? What is a self-existent I? Why do I see things like this? These will come up as you do this analysis, and you must talk it out with somebody who might know or who's practicing it, and they may give you some help, and then you analyze that till you get to a point where you start to see it and understand it. It evolves. And then sometimes we're just stuck, got too much going on in our head. And so sometimes purification and accumulation of merit, it helps. We humble ourselves, we do some positive things, do Vajrasattva, and start to empty the chatter from the mind, purify, and it kind of opens up again to bring some of these complicated topics into your mind in a very nice way, and you start to see things clearly. And develop ethics is important. It's very important. Why ethics? Because when you are doing unethical work, your mind is occupied in a non-virtuous activity. And you're so busy in turmoil. And when your mind is in turmoil, forget shamatha or tranquil abiding, and then forget learning emptiness, right? So you must at least try, to be ethical. And what happens, it already takes so much burden away from the chatter of all day things, the worldly concerns. We want fame and respect, and we can't lose it. And I want to gain this, and I can't lose that. And all this is always driving us. But take some time to think about how things exist. So it's a lifetime practice. Every day, take a few minutes and think about it. You're looking at walking in your house. Look at something and think about it. How does this thing exist? Who is walking? Why do I feel this way? All these things, and you will see how karma is playing, how it's holding us down, how ignorance is playing because of attachments, and how we see things, and how I like it and I don't like it, and it's this and it's that. and that kind of calms down, then you say, oh, okay, it's there. I don't have to put so much power into it. And then all of a sudden it loosens up. Already you're on a very good stage there, right? Because we don't take things personal anymore. If somebody curses at you, think about it. Who's cursing? And then you realize he's a dependent arising. He has a karma. His mind is currently in some thought that is causing that person an anger. And then you can loosen it up. That's what I'm saying. Okay. All right. So let's go to this. So unless somebody wants to say it, I'll allow maybe a few seconds, and if not, then we'll talk about it. Okay. So if somebody were to say, what is emptiness? Somebody wants to take a stab?
Oh, there's a, oh, there was a
Next one, I'll wait a little longer.
emptiness. is an-
So look at this, emptiness, also known as shunyata, selflessness, egolessness, etc., is the absence of true or inherent existence, which is empty of existing from its own side or independently. We can understand that now a little bit better. It is the ultimate truth. It is the characteristic of everything that exists. Everything we see is dependent arising. It's not independently existing. Now, something to think about very deeply. So then what is ignorance? I know it's very hard to come up with words, even if you understand it. It can spew out the answer sometimes, but I'll allow a few seconds here. I guess not. Moving on to the answer. So think about this. Okay, so now you know what is emptiness. Ignorance is an active misknowledge of reality. It is the cause of cyclic existence. Remember, the 12 links starts with ignorance. It is the cause of uncontrolled death and rebirth. It is also the cause of destructive emotions. It is the concept that adheres to the true or inherent existence. So emptiness is the antidote to ignorance. This is what starts the whole 12 links of keeping us in samsara. So now you know what emptiness is, and you know what ignorance is. So what does emptiness have to do with liberation and enlightenment? I'll go forward. So we can see from our classes and from sessions, the view of emptiness is the path to liberation because it is the actual antidote to ignorance. It is the path to enlightenment also, but must be conjoined with compassion to reach that goal. So we need both. Remember the three paths. We need to reach there, enunciate this samsara, which we understand, and then we have to learn how things are and want to benefit everyone. That's how we look at emptiness. So it liberates us. And we saw in Heart Sutra, once the ignorance is gone, you don't infuse those negative thoughts or those karmic infusion into your consciousness. Then when you get the body in form and the senses form, then you don't need to worry about pleasant and unpleasant and desire and undesirable. And when you start to eliminate these things, the ignorance is out and you're no longer in samsaric cycle. This should be easy, guys. We went through this entire class. Name one of the most famous teachings that Buddha gave on emptiness. Come on, Rainy.
Heart Sutra.
There you go. That's all I wanted to hear, at least something. Heart Sutra, it is the essence of wisdom because it is the most important of all wisdoms, as it is the path to liberation and enlightenment, assuring one's own and others' happiness. It is known as the heart of the perfection of wisdom. And we saw how they go through all the stages: accumulation, preparation, then they liberate. and become noble being. They go further with the deep meditation, and they ultimately become Buddha. Okay, so kind of putting it together, right? You see now what is emptiness, what is ignorance, right? What does how does emptiness liberate? So you know, you remove ignorance, so you can liberate yourself. Heart Sutra is the teaching, and we went through all of that. So what is dependent arising? How do emptiness and dependent arising relate to one another? We just talked about it. See, I know people know this, but it's hard to explain it. So let's take a look at it slowly. Dependent arising is the fact that whatever exists is dependent on other causes and condition, parts, and name and thought. We saw the three dependent arising, right? Causes and conditions, yes, parts, and then we label it. The opposite of dependent arising is the absolute independence. That is not depending on any causes, conditions, parts, or designation, such as name and thought. Such independence is unreal. If things truly or inherently existed, they would have to be absolutely independent. However, things are empty of inherent existence because they are dependent arising. Right? Make sense? If you need other things to make something happen, then this thing that results is not it. It is because of other factors making it happen, and then we label it. But as you label it, it's changing already. So this may be difficult. I spoke very briefly today. We talked about two types of meditation. So you naturally want to start with calm abiding. That's for your own mind. But then you can do these two. You can do analytical medicine, like 4-point analysis or object that you want to look at, and then placement meditation. So an example of analytical medicine was 4 points. Find the emptiness truly existing person, and then focus on the single point and focus completely, like truly find that I. This is placement meditation. So how are we going to realize emptiness on a daily basis? So we listen to it, we think about it, we meditate on it, and we rely on correct teachings. Remember, we are following Nagarjuna's, our lineage teachings of Nagarjuna, the middle way. You accumulate merit, purify your body, speech, and mind, so that slowly gets out the delusions and the negative, the non-virtuous states of mind, and you avoid wrong deeds through practice of ethics. This all comes together at one point. Okay? So that ought to tell you the whole story. What is emptiness? What is ignorance? How does it liberate? You know, the profound teaching of Heart Sutra. It takes you all, and then dependent arising. And if other factors are creating something, then it cannot be independent. It needs other things to exist, right? And then we label it. And that's how we perceive it. And then this is how we practice. Okay. These are some resources in case you want to take a picture of this. Okay. Enough time? Let's do a closing meditation. So get in a position for meditation. Take a couple of deep breaths. And check your posture. And make sure your spine is straight. Shoulders are relaxed. Mouth and jaw are relaxed, etc. Take deep breath in and out. So let's start our meditation and recognize that the time we give to meditation is extremely small, and give permission to let go of the past and the future and remain completely present for this session of meditation. So for this meditation, take a moment to recall your understanding that your identity is empty of abiding self-sustaining essence, because it is a conceptual universal contrived by words and thoughts. Further, recognize that everything that you can think of is equally empty for the same reason. Again, inherent existence. And regard all sensory appearances as illusory, because they appear as if their corresponding universal identity naturally abides within them as their essence. Now, practice witnessing all these appearances, whatever they may be, without holding them as objective facts. Use your understanding of interdependence with its implication of emptiness of inherent existence. Also, use your understanding of momentary impermanence to help you let go of the objects, as these are constant state of change. And maintain intensive awareness of the very essence of things, including your own identity, your own mind, and the objects of your experience. And do not let these conventional appearances weaken your awareness of the essence. And so let's dedicate the merit of listening, thinking, and meditating on emptiness over the duration of the course for the welfare of all living beings. Imagine living beings freed from their various miseries such as war, famine, sickness, aging, death, rebirth, and separation from perfect happiness. Imagine that they are provided with all conducive conditions they require for this to happen, and that they make use of them, such as sincere interest in teachings, spirit of inquiry, honesty, perseverance, leisure time, meeting virtuous friends, and all other requisites for study and practice. How wonderful that would be. And without necessarily thinking about emptiness, then just think how wonderful it would be if everybody was free of suffering and its cause. In closing, I like to acknowledge all the authors, my teachers, my lamas, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Khenchu Rinpoche, our Geshe-la, all our practitioners and the lamas that we have. And the instructions that I provided you, I used a lot of their teachings, and I believe it was a good introduction to the subject of emptiness, and I'm hoping that this course will be useful to you. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Heyman.
Thank you, Heyman. Very good course. Thank you. Really
Very
appreciate
good.
it.
Thank you so much.
And just real quick, everyone, we have Module 13 coming up. So we're not going to take a break like we normally do between modules. So Intro to Tantra will start next Monday, which is October 28th. And Don Brown will teach. That'll be in person as well as online. And we're only going to do 2 classes. We've got some other things coming up. And so Don Brown's going to just condense it into 2 classes. So October 28th and November 2nd, I think, or 4th, something like that, are the 2 classes of
Yeah,
Tantra.
the day before voting.
Okay, thank you.
Final day before voting.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Thank you
Thank
so much, Heyman.
Thanks.
you so
Thank
much.
you, Eamon. Thank
Thanks.
you, Linda.
Thank you.
Have a great
Bye.
evening and continue to practice. Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye now.